Okay, why don't we get started here? My name again is Roy Kessel from the Sports Philanthropy Network. We're very excited to have all of you with us today as we get started on this process of town hall meetings and webinars to hopefully create some great opportunities for people to engage and interact while the whole world is kind of seemingly shut down, especially from a sports perspective. I think it would be really helpful for everybody here. This is geared to be a discussion and a conversation of what different organizations are doing and how you're adjusting to this new type of schedule and everything going on. The goal of these meetings is really to engage and interact and for people to learn from other organizations. There's certainly some resources that are out there that we've put up on our COVID-19 page, which has a list of additional webinars from other organizations, some free services and programs that have been offered and created, and consulting services from different groups that are willing to work with organizations through this time of challenge. What I wanted to do was see if we could just go around really quickly and have each person introduce themselves and a couple words about their organization. And I think it would be helpful to know where people are located geographically so that we can identify and talk about what might be going on in different parts of the country. So I'm just going to go off of my screen and kind of go across there. So Linda, you're first up. So let's start with you.
Great. I'm with the USTA Southern California, which is one of the sections for the National USTA section, national body. I'm the Chief Administration Officer for the USTA section, as well as the Executive Director for the foundation. I'm located in Los Angeles, and obviously we're in tennis, so we're looking for our social media to show both our providers and our players what they can do at home while there's downtime.
Fantastic. Thank you. Mariana?
So I think hello, can you hear me?
It's a little quiet.
Okay.
Speak up, Mariana.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
That's better, yes.
All right. So hi, I'm here with John. I'm the development coordinator of Beat the Streets Wrestling. We're a youth wrestling nonprofit located in New York City. So as you know, right now, New York City is a hotbed. What we've been doing recently is just turning everything online. So we're doing a million minutes challenge, since we do provide more so physical training and other resources for our student athletes. So one of the ways we've been dealing with this is just doing a transition online using social media, Instagram posts with challenges for our kids, and then they log in their hours. So that's sort of a brief thing and how we're doing.
Fantastic. Nancy?
Hi, Nancy Abrams, USTA Southern California, along with Linda Milan. Kind of ditto Linda, and since we work with so many small sort of independent providers throughout Southern California, we're hoping to help them stay sort of front-facing during this time so that when kids and adults do pick up their tennis hobbies, they can, and their fitness, they can find those that have helped them over the last number of years play the game and help them with their businesses moving forward.
Great, thank you. Hannah?
Hi, I'm Hannah Press. I'm with the Chicago Public Schools in the Office of Student Health and Wellness. I'm their physical activity specialist, and I've been trying to compile resources from all the great Chicago-based organizations and sports-based youth development nonprofits to kind of share out with our staff and principals to try to spread the word on any activities that can be happening at home for our students.
Terrific. Kayla, I don't know if you can jump on quickly. No? Okay, let's,
Oh,
oh,
I'm here. Good morning, everybody. I'm Kayla Bradham. I'm the VP of Community Development for the Sports Philanthropy Network. I'm also a high school language arts teacher involved in the Milwaukee community for health and wellness.
thank you. Derek with John Rollins on deck.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm Derek Watts. I'm originally from Mount Vernon, New York. I moved down to South Carolina last year. I'm an insurance agent, so I moved down here for a job down here. I started coaching the girls travel team down here in South Carolina. I 8U, 10U, and 12U travel softball, and I also I'm in charge of the tournaments for South Carolina for our Blackwood Bobcats. So I'm here just trying to learn different ways to actually do my passion effectively and efficiently.
Okay, thank you. John? Michael?
Hi, my name is John Rollins. I'm the Director of Operations and Finance for Beat the Streets Wrestling in New York City. As Mariana alluded to, we help our inner city youth kids with wrestling through our programs, through our academy program, our junior league, and our girls program. Been in business since 2005, and we are dealing with this crisis like the rest of you all. And New York has been, as Mariana said, the hotbed lately, but we are working with our kids on a daily basis and keeping everything in communication. So appreciate the time today. Thanks.
Thank you. Michael? Michael still muted. Okay. We'll jump across to, oh, there he is.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thanks. So I work for Youth on Course. We're a nonprofit organization that provides youth with access to play golf affordably. We're in an interesting place because the golf industry as a whole is advocating to keep golf courses open. And that currently varies state by state and county by county. So we actually have 70,000 members across the country, and there are more than 1,300 golf courses where these kids can play golf for $5 or less. And we, technically do not have any authority to, shut down golf courses, obviously, or prevent our young people from playing. So, we're just trying to measure the landscape and learn what other organizations are doing. The nature of our program, kids are playing golf recreationally. It's a recreational opportunity. So we're in an interesting place. And with many of our partners, living in areas that may not have been hit by the virus as hard as others, viewpoints of this, vary so widely. So yeah, appreciate everyone sharing where they're at and looking forward to this discussion. I'm in San Jose, California, so another place where, we've been in lockdown for a couple weeks now, and cases continue to climb here.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Amanda?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Amanda Susko with the Pittsburgh Penguins Foundation. I'm our Senior Director of Foundation Programs and Strategic Planning, obviously located in Pittsburgh. My perspective might be a little bit different right now. We focus on kids in the community under the belief that kids are the future. So we're trying to see, how we can stay connected with our littlest fans at this time, whether that's through their parents, through the kids directly on social media. And then also, if we're able to fundraise in any ways to support the community. We had a little bit of luck right out the gate. We held a St. Patrick's Day fundraiser for jerseys that the team was going to wear, but the game was not played, and we ended up raising over $20,000 that we just distributed to 4 organizations in our region. So again, just trying to see, how we can use our platform, our players, being a professional sports team to help right now.
Terrific. Thank you, Amanda. Andrew, glad to see you here.
Hey, sorry, technical challenge trying to find the mute button there. But how's everyone doing today? My name's Andrew Bondarovich. So I'm actually an attorney in the New York, New Jersey area with specialties in sports entertainment law as well as nonprofits. I serve as a consultant and/or counsel to a number of youth-focused and sports-focused nonprofits, mainly in the New York, New Jersey area, but there are also some scattered throughout the country as well. So thanks everyone for joining, and we're all kind of facing the same brave new world right now.
All right, April.
Hey everyone, my name is April. I'm in Chicago. I work for an organization called Urban Initiatives, and we do sports-based youth development programming for the about 50 to 60 Chicago public schools. And so we, just like lots of people, I'm here to sort of like listen and see what sort of ideas I can get, or like what context for what other groups are doing that can be helpful for us as we try to, adapt or pivot our program to a virtual platform for potentially many months. So just seeing what I can learn. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Donna?
Okay, I'm there. Sorry about that. Good morning, everyone. My name is Donna Callahan, and I'm the owner of All In Sport Consulting, which focuses on sport organizations for people with physical disabilities or adaptive sport in the US. I'm based in Denver, and these times are just really challenging for the disabled community, being that many of us already have compromised immune systems. The sad thing and unfortunate thing is many of us are already familiar with social isolation, so it's even more important for us to stay connected and be a part of the community somehow or another, and to stay active however we can do that with our programs throughout the community.
Great, Donna. Thanks for being with us today. Mark, are you ready? I think you're still muted there.
Figure it out.
There we go.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mark.
Hi, I'm Mark Segedy. This is my first time involved, and I'm just here to learn. I mean, I am a partner with my wife in Devonley Labradors. We are a show kennel, but we get greatly involved in service dogs and therapy dogs, and I'm just trying to learn where this might fit in as I'm seeing this expand.
Okay, great. Thank you. John?
Good morning, everyone. John CEO, Rivals Media. Rivals Media is a fan engagement platform during events, typically sports events and content on TV that raises money for charities. We do so with our athlete partners like Jerry Hairston Jr., Jeremy Roenick, Vinny Del Negro. What we're doing right now is we are creating our own content shows, whether it's an esports match or a one-on-one golf match between our celebrities, and tagging it to GoFundMe campaigns to raise money for victims of coronavirus. We're waiving our fees completely on any of the donations, and we're just trying to make this an opportunity to teach people how to engage with, whether it's esports or whether it's an online or TV concert, on picking the order of the songs that they're going to sing. Where there's some great content that came out over the weekend, and it's just fans don't know how to engage with the Madden tournament that they hosted on FS1. With our platform, it would be a live game where you're predicting the outcomes while you're watching a TV show, because people right now are really hungry for any type of fan engagement with their favorite team, sports, or celebrities or athletes.
Great. Thanks very much, John. Tracy? Tracy? Well, okay, maybe Tracy's not ready yet. We'll come back to Tracy to introduce herself in just a couple minutes when she's ready. I think what I wanted to do is kind of go through some of the ideas. I know the challenges are obviously very different when you talk about, Michael's talking about golf, or we've got people from the USTA with tennis. What's interesting is there's been a lot of discussion as to whether those sports can and should continue to go on, because you really can participate in those sports and still maintain a distance. I think it's a very different conversation for our New York group with wrestling. Obviously, that's something that's much more challenging. Even if we get allowed out of the house, that's going to be, I think, a much longer time till you can get back to that type of competition. So as you look at the tennis world, I'm interested to see how that's being perceived from the USTA's perspective.
Well, everything official for the USTA and all of their sections is been canceled through May 7th for the local areas, and through June 2nd or 3rd for the national events. While yes, we can play tennis at a distance, but most of the facilities are closed except for parks where people can walk on. And most of the teaching pros, of which most of them probably are independent type contractors. If they're employees, they've been laid off from clubs, and if they're independent, their income has been pretty much dried up. So it's severely hit us, and we follow the local and federal guidelines as an official statement from the USTA. So we're pretty much, as opposed to golf, saying stay your distance. If a court's there and you want to walk on it, and play, cross the net with someone else, then you certainly are far enough away. Nancy, on the other hand, deals with a very large youth program, and so I'm going to let Nancy talk about that, because that's a little bit different than what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Yeah, Linda was referring to our junior team program, and we also have our adult league. So although tennis can be a singular sport in the U.S., for the USTA, especially in Southern California, it's very much a team-oriented sport. So obviously congregating lots of kids and teams and parents and coaches together is not a good idea. So we've definitely pushed back all of that programming for now. And then we have some schools-based programming with our Net Generation Youth umbrella. We do a lot of physical education in schools, a lot of our after-school programming. Of course, all of our schools are closed out here in Southern California, particularly in Los Angeles County. And, we've had to curtail all that. So again, we're doing our best to focus online with our Net Generation platform for all kids, whether they're in teams or schools or whatever, to have activities to do at home. And I think at this point, a lot of the NGBs are doing a great job, but the USTA's Net Generation platform was very helpful to keep kids engaged at home with recorded videos and what have you. So if anybody has a chance, check it out. It's not just about tennis, it's about physical activity for kids.
So when you look at what you're doing, are there resources then? What's the best place for people to look for resources where, from a tennis perspective, or anything that the USTA is putting out?
I right now would go to netgeneration.com, especially for kids and those of you that are in the school space or youth space. There's a number of great do-at-home activities that you or individual activities that have to do with fitness. So netgeneration.com is, anybody can take a look at that to find any number of videos or activities.
Okay, Fantastic. I'm also very interested to hear, Hannah, how CPS is handling this in terms of the types of programs that CPS is putting on during this crisis, and then what it's able to do from a perspective to continue to engage the students.
Yeah, it's obviously a huge challenge, and there are limitations with access to internet and computers and resources for all of these online things that we're sharing. But our office is doing our best to just compile all the great resources that are out there from our partners, because everybody is really stepping up and doing their best to provide resources online and videos. So just trying to spread the word about those as much as possible in terms of the physical activity space. And then the physical education piece is our folks in teaching and learning. That's a whole kind of different beast in terms of e-learning. But in terms of physical activity, really just sharing out as many resources and compiling that as much as possible.
Fantastic. I know we've got a couple people that jumped in here, so I'd love to have them introduce themselves. Tracy, are you with us to do an introduction?
Yes. Tracy Jones from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I'm Executive Director of the T. Alexander Foundation, where we specialize in preparing athletes for what's next. So a lot of our programming kind of consistently has been virtual or through digital platforms. So we've just been able to maintain through our Zoom connections with a lot of our college and high school athletes, and talking about how they're managing the transition, how they're managing the period. But one of the things that we've also offered, in addition to our normal programming with student athletes, is we're working with the families and the coaches, providing them kind of scripts on how to have those conversations with those athletes to manage expectations and a little bit of anxiety during this period.
Great, thank you. Andrea?
Hi, yeah, I'm from Peace Players International. Actually, I'm from the Chicago location, but we work with kids, youth in the divided communities, ages. We have two different divisions. So Peace League is our middle school division, and Leadership Development Division, LDP, is where we work with high school kids. And so our mission and our goal is to unite divided communities through sport, and really want to inspire them to help to create the change that we want to see in the different neighborhoods. So I am working out of the Chicago territory as the program manager. And right now, obviously, we're all kind of on pause right now, but have been engaging our kids with weekly calls with my coaches, and trying to figure out ways to keep them kind of engaged and involved and a part of something during this difficult time.
Yeah, I think that hits it right on the head, which is how do you continue to engage them, because everybody's interested in being out and playing sports. But I think even for us, we sit here and look at Zoom. There's a limit to how many hours a day that we can look at the screen this way. We could probably be at a seminar or conference for a day or a couple of days, but I think looking at these screens gets challenging, and you can imagine the kids are looking at the screens for their classes, and they look at physical education or gym class or after school programming as a way to break up that monotony. And April, I'm interested to hear how you're doing things at Urban Initiatives, because I know from all the great work you guys do, and speaking to Jim, it's a challenge to continue the programming.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge, and I think that we work very closely with CPS, and I think that at this point, and Hannah sort of addressed this a little bit, is that CPS as like a central office is really thinking about much more critical things in terms of just like how are we getting something to all of the students that's more like instructional, or like determining what e-learning or virtual learning looks like. And so I think we're in a position right now where we are figuring out how to adapt our program, and then hoping to be able to launch it thoughtfully and reach the highest number of students who have been in our programs. I think that we talked a lot last week about the kind of the urgency about wanting to connect with students, but then like wanting to connect to them with something that's meaningful. And so kind of like balancing that, like, you know, need for speed, but then also wanting to be patient and make sure that we do this thoughtfully and meaningfully.
So give us an example of some of the types of programs or initiatives that you're looking at in terms of what can be out there and what you're trying to get accomplished in terms of engaging the kids, and if there is something physical that you can have them do.
So I think in fact, the things that we're hoping to do kind of first are figuring out how to have sessions middle school and high school students in those programs, which have typically been more emotional learning and professional development, or like, you know, college and career readiness, rather than figuring out how to do physical activity or like lead physical activity with kids who we're not in the same physical space as. I think that we're trying to be creative about that. And so focusing on reaching out to our middle school and high school students, like specifically those kids who have been in that program, but then we're also developing some public content that will sort of be thematic and include physical activity and physical challenges and that sort of thing. And so that will be publicly available to any student. And we are working on that this week, and we'll be able to share it with everyone, maybe at a future webinar once we have that up and running.
Well, fantastic. And I would encourage April and everyone else here, as you find resources that you like or that your organization may be creating, I encourage you to share those with us so that we can circulate those through social media, on our weekly newsstand that we put out, and on our COVID-19 resource page, because there's groups that are developing some terrific content and programs and activities. And I think, unfortunately, we're in this for a significant amount of time. Nobody knows exactly, but I would be surprised if this changes very much over the next 2 months. I think we're going to be looking at this in all likelihood well into and probably through May. So there's a lot of time there. And if we think about how many hours of activity every one of your organizations typically runs over the course of 2 months, that's a lot of hours. And so what I think is going to be a challenge is people create something that's a terrific program if someone's stuck at home for a few days, a weekend, a week, or something like that. But I don't think we've seen a need for the amount of programming and content and exercises and other things that need to occur for we're already 2 weeks into this and probably another 60 days. So that's a 75-day window. That's a significant undertaking. I see Veronica joined us. So Veronica, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do at Chicago Run?
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Veronica. I'm a program manager at Chicago Run, and I work mostly with our during the school day program, so K-5, and we lead exercise brain breaks during the school day. So right now we can't really do that, so we're mostly doing online resources, and we're on Facebook posting live videos during the day to try to reach out to our youth through social media.
So I know it's speaking to Danielle last week, or at least messaging with her, we were talking about the challenge of the fact that from a running perspective, it's probably a good sport to be able to have an opportunity to get out there, but there's so many people now also that are fearful of just really being out at all or in any type of group. And I think that's a challenge similar to what Michael talked about from a golf perspective. If you think about being on a golf course, you're typically maybe other than on the putting green, you're almost definitely more than 6 feet away even from the people you're playing with throughout the course of the day. But the challenge is, as Linda mentioned, all the people that work at a facility, all the people that are involved in running the facility that have to be out there and then potentially exposed. So Veronica, how are you guys setting up running programs or sort of running challenges during this time?
Right now we are kind of in the beginning stages of trying to come up with a virtual run. So that's something we're trying to do. But we have daily fitness challenges. So we'll post on our social media, can you follow along with this challenge for today? And like I mentioned, we go on Facebook Live each weekday at 1 so that our youth can follow along with our coaches to try to keep it regular. But we do get some views, and for those that don't get to catch us live, we post the videos on our website so that way they can follow along later.
I think one of the things that is been very interesting is to watch how different organizations are using social media, and obviously with everything that's out there, I'm curious to hear which platforms people have found to be most productive in terms of how they've been able to interact and engage with the athletes in their program. Anyone want to talk about that?
Hi, this is Tracy again. I want to say Instagram has probably been our best social media resource, Instagram live feature, because it not only allows you to tap into your base already, but it also has been helpful for student athletes sharing with other athletes in their network to have some of our Q&A sessions grow larger. But I would say outside of the first 10 minutes, that's when we really started to see the drop off. So we had to like do it in 10-minute increments, because anything longer than 10 minutes on IG Live, we started to see a decrease in engagement as well as a decrease in attendance.
And that's probably true with most parts of everything that gets done these days, is the attention spans are very short. We're used to watching and getting restless at 30-second commercials. So getting people to watch for 10 minutes is a significant amount of time. April, did you have some feedback? No? Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I mean, and this is a little bit old, and I think that lots of organizations there are a lot of resources out there, and I think that one thing that I'm trying to do this week is just curate those resources so that organizations or individuals can go in and figure out what might be most relevant for them. I shared a public Google Doc that anyone can look at. Maybe it won't be useful to you at all. That's fine. Maybe you would like to add something or take something from it to share with your network, and that's fine as well. So that's there for everyone to look at.
Thank you.
Hey, Roy, I'll tell you, John CEO here. LinkedIn has really been a great platform for us. Last week, Sports Techie did a virtual conference where I probably made 30 to 40 new connections and have calls scheduled with a significant number of them, of people that are really just looking to how do we engage. So we've really been focused on LinkedIn until we launch our content. When we launch our content, it'll be all the regular channels. But from a networking and just getting like-minded people together, LinkedIn has been great.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that information with us. I think it's really interesting when you look around at all of the different groups that are trying to come together. If you evaluate and see what's going on, how many sports organizations exist in general, and then try and extrapolate out how many hours of programming and content there really need to be to fill up that lack of participation, of attendance, of interaction. I think a lot of people out there are surprised by how much time we spend in our lives on sports. Maybe not the people on this call, but I think in general, and they forget about how many hours a day they might be listening to the talk shows on ESPN or sports talk radio, or following scores, or just getting updates, or even if they're just participants going out and playing tennis, golf, soccer, running. it's a huge number of hours for everybody, and it's an enormous adjustment for all of us to be cooped up like this and not being able to go out. And so one of the questions that I think is interesting is, what's that next stage going to be for all of us when we look at how this is working in the current context? We've been in this environment for 2 weeks. If this goes on for another 60 days, I think it changes dramatically. Dawn, I'm interested to hear your thoughts in terms of how you're working. I know you were putting together a conference, and obviously there's a lot of challenges on the conference space right now, but as you look with your group, how are you seeing things coming together?
Right. So I think there's, I'm in the process right now of putting together a kind of a weekly e-newsletter for folks of organizations that have been able to put together adaptive sport videos for folks. I think some of the challenges are, our equipment. If some of these kids don't have a basketball chair or a racing chair at home, we got to figure out some other opportunities. I still am going forward with the conference, which is set for early October, so fingers crossed. Timing on everything still works out. But I think if we are able to host something in early October, it'll be a great way to bring everybody together and kind of talk about what did we learn, what are some new practices that we weren't necessarily planning on or ever thought we would have to do, but new ways to work with our community virtually and using social media for conducting programs in this particular disability population. So hopefully that conference will come together, and I think the community is looking to other organizations in this space across the country that are doing similar virtual opportunities, and they're just trying to all learn from each other. So that's why I'm trying to put together this newsletter to kind of bring us all together and start sharing some ideas and opportunities that folks are challenged with these days. And a lot of events, as fundraiser events have been canceled as well. So I think folks are a little desperate in what they're going to do when their biggest fundraiser of the year is canceled in March or April, possibly May. So I don't think it's any different from any other sport-related organizations are challenged with. So I think we are very much similar to those that are serving children and youth without a disability. But I do think we do have some of those added challenges of making sure this community stays healthy.
I think one of the challenges that I've seen raised in that space, Donna, is that most people without a disability are able to create an opportunity for something for movement on their own. If the weather's nice enough, they can go out for a walk or a run. A lot of people in the adaptive sports space are heavily dependent on having other individuals help them and participate with them. And if those individuals aren't willing to go out or are not able to go out, then it really changes the whole equation.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times these disability sport organizations are these people's, social network. It's their community, it's their friends, they become family. And, if you don't have someone to help you possibly transfer into your hand cycle or your racing chair, there's going to be some challenges. So, that's hopefully why this newsletter that I'm sending out is going to help create some opportunities. There are some videos out there that folks are sharing with me for wheelchair yoga and different activities, but just trying to make sure this community doesn't feel more isolated than they might already. So if anybody has any ideas or suggestions, I appreciate it. And, I want to find ways to, keep this community engaged so that they, don't backtrack and that we can keep momentum moving forward.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really challenging is you hear a lot of the discussions of anything that involves getting groups together and people just not having a sense at this point on how long it's going to go on. I mean, if you look at the experts that are still trying to guess when it's going to be, and as they've said, the virus will dictate that. None of us really have any control over what that timing is going to be. I'm curious to see what other sports and other organizations are doing. So I know we've got a few folks from the wrestling side. How are you approaching that, John?
Well, right now we're all our kids, our programming staff has done a great job with the virtual exercise program and stuff like that. But the biggest thing that we are on right now, we're affiliated with USA Wrestling, so we have this big event at Madison Square Garden in the Hulu Theater. It's called Grapple at the Garden, where we take the best Olympic wrestlers and world wrestlers and NCAA champions, and we bring them to this big fundraising donation event at the Hulu Theater. And that was supposed to take place on May 28th, which is not going to happen now. So, as Donna said about moving the conference out to October, we're trying to push this out to July and August right now. So it's been a challenge, dealing with the kids from the NCAA, about going back to school and stuff like that, and all that. So that's been the biggest challenge for us right now. The programming side is our staff, the girls program and the academy and the junior league. They've been in constant contact. I can't remember, the gentleman was talking about Instagram Live before and all that stuff. We've been involved with that as well. So, but the events part of it has been a challenge for sure. And Madison Square Garden's been a great partner, but we got a couple of placeholders in there, so we're hopefully, the virus goes away soon and we can get rolling on this. So.
Yeah, I think that's one of the issues we're going to spend a lot of time on Wednesday in terms of dealing with funding and fundraising and looking at the different strategies, because there's a lot of concern how organizations can maintain their sustainability with having lost some of their biggest fundraising events, having lost a lot of the fees for participation or for other things like that. I know John has a great platform, and they're trying to do some work to help people continue that fundraising during this difficult time, and that's something we'll focus a lot on Wednesday. But I think the challenge right now is we've got a lot of kids, a lot of other athletes sitting at home, and how can we continue to be active and continue to maintain our involvement, because if you look around on social media, half of the memes that are out there are talking about how much weight people are gaining, and again, it's only been 2 weeks, right? They're talking about social distancing their buttons on their pants, or whatever else is going on. So who has other ideas that they've seen either directly in their organization or seen in other places? John?
Yeah, Roy, very interesting. What we're typically an entry fee donation platform where we're doing that for free so people can just play the games. And there's an awful lot of money that was never available to nonprofits before, that was on-premise sponsorship from major corporations. So we're doing our best to find the right corporations to sponsor online events with the majority of that money going to the charities. The charities aren't going to be able to make up their golf tournaments and all their live events very easily, but putting this out there and keeping their donors engaged and building their donor base is what we're really focusing on today. Is, hey, look, even if we get 10,000 people and only 1,000 make a donation, those are 9,000 people that are now connected to your charity. And those are people that at the appropriate time, we can go back and do an ask for a donation. So that's sort of 2 ways we're approaching what to do today. And the corporate social responsibility, look for corporations that have corporate social responsibility divisions, because they're underutilized in the world of sports.
Absolutely, and there's been some great things out there. We had up on our blog last month a woman from DC, Sasha Altschuler, put together a great article that she did for her capstone project and talked about how the different leagues are implementing their CSR programs. And I think one of the things that I've encouraged a lot of people and a lot of organizations to do is to utilize this time for training and development, not only of their staff internally, but also of their boards, also of other types of stakeholders in their organization. And when you look at the kids that are involved with these programs that are thirsting for opportunities, there's some terrific initiatives out there to help get them some additional training on leadership development types of programs, on mental toughness types of programs, things that oftentimes, I'll speak for myself as a kid in high school, I want to be out on the court playing or on the field playing. I didn't want to be sitting and learning something else. But I think now, if we have any opportunity to connect kids to that sports related content, that gives them a way to recognize that even though they may not be able to physically maintain the level of conditioning that they would have in a normal environment, that now they've got something productive to do. Mark, did you have something you wanted to jump in with?
Not at this. You still there? Or?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, we're at, in the way we're going, most of our stuff are AKC events. Everything from, hunt trials to confirmation shows, and everything's been canceled until May. And for good reason. I mean, even our largest show coming up, the Potomac, is 1,500 Labrador retrievers from all around the world. So you're going to be exposed to everything from every place. And we've always dealt that with just, as people may not look at it as the dogs as athletes, but many of them are. And they get exposed to things all the time from different countries. And now we have the situation for ourselves. We're trying to engage people via Facebook and things of that nature, just on everything from breeding practices to how to take care of animals to going out to the people who are not in our events, but families, just regular family dogs. A lot of challenges, people not participating as we do. We only breed when we're keeping something for ourselves. But from that, we have found that we've ended up with a lot of service dogs and diabetes alert dogs and things of that nature. And now having people come out to meet, do evaluations is very tough. So we're trying to find new ways to do this. A lot of FaceTiming together, having veterinarians come to come to your homes to do the evaluations and to show people what could happen. It's different. It's very different. And I'm also looking at this on how to expand to help other people, because I feel that we're seeing more opportunities where people want to train their own service dogs. And obviously going to online training and trying to figure out how the evaluation, because many of the people have stopped breeding programs, and the people involved in confirmation have basically a 75 to 90% success rate versus the washouts, which is normally at least 50% on most dogs.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you see what people are looking for in terms of activities, even the people that aren't necessarily what we would typically classify as athletes, they're some of the people that are getting out the most right now because they're taking their dogs out for walks. And I think that it's become a challenge in a lot of these environments where there's more density to the population. I'm sure New York City is like that. I know in Chicago they closed down the lakefront because there were too many people congregating around Oak Street Beach and North Avenue and that whole walkway there, and not that people walking by is a problem, but that people were just getting together and hanging out instead of staying at home. And so I think we're going to see a lot of ongoing challenges here. I'm really interested to see how different organizations are going to do things. Amanda, you may have some insight for us in terms of not only how the Penguins are responding, but what have you heard from some of your other colleagues around the NHL or around any of the other leagues in terms of what the team foundations are doing?
I think in general, we're kind of looking at this as it's probably going to be a marathon rather than a sprint. So how can we plan out ways to engage with our fans and, support our fans for possibly a few months until the situation's kind of wrapped up. So I think initially we were trying to put out as much content and, support videos from our players and whatnot as we could. But now we've kind of changed our thinking into like, let's outline this, kind of, let's look at the next like 30 days and see what we can put together. So, we've relied a lot on our our trainers to put together videos. The NHL right away jumped on creating like the hashtag hockey at home. So different teams have been supporting that. Fitness tips, workout tips, skills and drills for kids up to adults. That's been big. And then, even at the Pens Foundation, trying to pull together our fan base to realize like we're a family, we're going to get through this together. So we've been thinking through like once this is wrapped up and done, how can we possibly fundraise around that thought? So, we're already putting together like what type of event could we have? Could we be selling t-shirts that have a message of support on them to help raise money? So again, we're trying to think more so long-term, I think, than short-term right now.
And then that raises a question because a lot of people want to see everything return to normal as quickly as possible. And I think we're getting the sense now that's not going to be a quick process. What's the latest that you're hearing from the league, from the NHL side in terms of any realistic expectation of when that competition may resume with or without fans?
Funny enough, I have a call tomorrow, so I'll know probably a little bit more then with the NHL. I know it's been in the public that, the teams are talking to their arenas to see what availability looks like into July and August. So I think the goal is to award the Stanley Cup in some way and not have a season where it's not awarded. The question is just, how's this pandemic going to play out, if it is going to allow us to play those games in front of fans or possibly not. So, but I know the goal is to get that cup in someone's hands, hopefully Pittsburgh's.
So basically just bring all the teams together for a shootout all at one time and
there you go. Yeah.
single elimination and see who wins. But I think it's going to be crazy. I know we only have about 5 minutes left, and I want to stick to the timetable that we gave everyone. I want to thank you all for coming on and sharing your insight. But I kind of want to close with people going around and jumping in with what you think is one of the best initiatives that you've seen to deal with all of this over the last couple of weeks.
Just amazing how our team has just come together. We were a strong unit before, but it just seems the resiliency of our programming staff to help the kids out still has just been really, really impressive. Me being on the executive level, it's just been an outstanding asset to watch what our coaches are doing with these kids still. And hopefully this all ends soon and everybody can get back. And I hope the Islanders win the Stanley Cup. That's the one I'm rooting for. So I apologize for that.
Anybody else want to jump in? Andrea?
Yeah, this is Andrea. I would say I'm also a part of the Sport for Good Chicago, a division of Laureus. And I would say the one thing that's been really great is just the sharing of best practices amongst different organizations, which I think has been very, very helpful during these telling times.
Fantastic. I know that that community has a lot of great information there. I think one of the things that I want to encourage people to do is we've got a couple more town hall meetings going on this week, and then we've got webinars starting next week on a whole array of topics, and we're continuing to build the programming and get topics that are of interest going all the way through the end of May. So if you've got topics that are of particular interest, I encourage you to reach out and send those over to me, and we'll make sure, we'll see what we can do to make that happen. April, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I put a link to this video that I've thought a lot about. And so I'm gonna shout out America Scores and Chicago Run. I think just seen really great content from their coaches. So those groups have specifically done a great job reaching out directly to the kids via platforms that we're all familiar with. And so these were, I got a lot of good ideas from watching these, and think that they're doing a great job.
Yeah, I know that America Scores, Brittany was in town a few weeks ago, the CEO for their poetry slam, their regional poetry slam. They do great things engaging kids and work in a whole variety of cities, and their program also has other types of topics and things like that. But I encourage you to look around, and that's really what we're trying to do through these town halls and webinars, is create a community so you have a chance to meet each other, engage with each other, and feel free to reach out at any point to me if I can help connect you to somebody and make an introduction that will help fit what you're looking for your organization, because there's some incredible programs out there in terms of building registration and all types of programs for leadership development, for mental toughness, for physical fitness, all kinds of interesting ways to accomplish that. So again, I want to thank everybody for coming out, for participating, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions. We'll get this video processed and put up on the site as well. So if there's something you want to go back to, you'll be able to go back and take a look at that. Anybody have any closing questions or thoughts before we sign off? No? Okay. So thank you again for everybody for coming on, and I hope that you'll join us for some of the other meetings. Wednesday, we're going to be talking about funding and fundraising. Friday, we're going to be talking about really training for your board of directors and your professional staff. So, and then the schedule is posted on the webinar page, which is just sportsphilanthropynetwork.com/webinars. That'll be continually updated as we add more activities and more programs. And again, I encourage you to make sure you let us know if there are additional topics that you would like to see. Thank you for everybody for being with us, and we appreciate your time today.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thanks, Roy.
Thank you, Roy. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.